Nico's ship shuddered as it passed through the thick clouds of Zipharon, a distant planet known for its jagged mountains and deadly wildlife. He gripped the controls tightly, sweat forming on his brow. The landing platform was rough, cracked from years of neglect, but it was the only place he could safely set down. The air outside hissed through the ship's vents as he stepped out. The sky was greenish, and two suns hung low, casting long, strange shadows across the rocky terrain. Nico checked his communicator. All systems stable, he muttered to himself. But deep inside, he felt uneasy. He wasn't used to planets like Zipharon, where danger seemed to lurk behind every stone. He had completed many missions, but this one felt different. Someone or something was waiting for him. From the shadows of the landing platform, a figure stepped forward. Nico squinted. The alien was tall, with shimmering skin that reflected the green sunlight. Its eyes were sharp, like polished amber, and its movements were careful, precise, almost like a predator observing prey. "I am Tira," the alien said in a voice that was calm but firm. "I will be your protector while you are on Zipharon." Nico raised an eyebrow. "Protector? You mean, like a bodyguard?" Tira's lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, but a sign of acknowledgement. "Yes. But know this, my species has rules. I can only provide complete protection if I share your living space. You must allow me to stay in the same bed chamber with you." Nico blinked, taken aback. The same bed chamber. He tried to keep his voice steady, but it wavered. "You mean, sleep in the same room?" Tira's amber eyes remained serious. "Yes. It is not about comfort or anything you imagine. It is a tradition of my people. Without it, I cannot fully guard you. If I am separated from you at night, my abilities are limited." Nico rubbed his temples. He had dealt with strange alien customs before, but this was unusual. "All right," he said finally. "I guess I don't have a choice. There's nowhere else safe here anyway." Tira nodded once. "Good. We leave immediately." The two of them walked toward the city's outer walls. Zipharon was not welcoming. Towering rock spires jutted from the ground like teeth. Strange creatures skittered in the shadows, some large as vehicles, some so small they moved like sparks of light. Nico felt a thrill of fear and excitement. As they moved, Tira scanned every corner with sharp attention. "Stay close," she instructed. "Zipharon's locals do not welcome outsiders. Some will try to harm you, or worse, steal what you carry." Nico nodded. He kept his hand near his sidearm, though he knew Tira's presence was far more important than any weapon he had. Her posture was rigid but fluid, a balance of strength and grace. She could strike or defend with perfect precision, he was sure of that. They reached a small inn tucked into the side of a jagged cliff. The building looked old, but its walls were reinforced with alien alloys. Inside, the inn smelled of metal and spices, and a few patrons glanced at them, their eyes wary. Nico felt their stares cling at him, but Tira's presence seemed to shield him. "You will stay here tonight," Tira said. "I will set up near you. You must sleep within the chamber I prepare." Nico swallowed his pride and followed her. The chamber was small, but neat. A single bed took up most of the space. A strange glowing device hovered above it, filling the room with soft light. Tira gestured toward it. "This will maintain your comfort and safety. I will sleep nearby. My alert senses will detect any threat before it reaches you." Nico hesitated. "So, you mean, you'll be awake while I sleep?" Tira's expression was unreadable. "Yes. I am trained for this. Sleep does not dull my senses. I am alert at all times." Nico took a deep breath. The room suddenly felt smaller than he expected. Yet, he realized he was grateful for her presence. This alien, with her strict rules and sharp eyes, was exactly what he needed to survive here. "All right," he said softly. "I guess we try it your way." Tira nodded once. "Good. Rest now. Danger can strike at any moment on Zifferon." Nico lay down, feeling both nervous and oddly relieved. Outside, the wind howled across the rocky cliffs. Inside, the glow from the device cast long shadows on the walls. He wondered what strange challenges the night might bring, and if he could truly trust an alien with such unusual customs. But one thing was certain: he was not alone. And for the first time that day, he felt a faint spark of hope. The night on Zifferon was colder than Nico expected. Outside, wind swept across jagged cliffs, carrying strange cries of creatures he could not identify. Inside the small inn, the glowing device cast soft, steady light over the room. Nico lay awake for a while, trying to get used to the idea of Tira sleeping nearby. He could hear her movements, soft, careful, almost silent. He felt strange, having someone so close but so different from him. Part of him wanted to speak, to ask questions about her species, her training, her life. But he also knew it was better to stay quiet. Tira had made it clear, alertness was everything on Zifferon. Hours passed, and finally, Nico's eyelids grew heavy. Just as he was about to drift off, a soft sound came from outside the room, a faint scratching, almost like claws against metal. Nico froze. He held his breath. Tira was already moving. Without a word, she slid from her position near the bed and crouched beside the doorway. Her eyes glowed faintly in the light as she scanned the hall. Every muscle in her body was tense, ready to strike. "They are here," she whispered, barely moving her lips. "Stay quiet." Nico's heart pounded. He had expected danger on Zifferon, but not so soon, not so close. He obeyed, staying flat on the bed as Tira listened. Outside the door, footsteps echoed, soft but deliberate. Someone or something was trying to enter the room. Tira's hand moved to a small device at her side. She pressed a button, and a soft hum filled the air. Nico could feel it vibrating through the floor. A barrier appeared, invisible but solid, blocking the doorway. The intruders hit it, but it did not give way. "They are strong," Tira said, her voice calm. "But not enough." Suddenly, the door rattled violently. A shadow lunged against the barrier, then retreated. Nico could hear low, growling sounds. Whatever was outside, it was intelligent, organized, and dangerous. He realized the inn was not as safe as it looked. Tira did not move from her position. She was a shield and a sword at the same time. Nico felt a mix of fear and admiration. He had fought in dangerous situations before, but Tira made it look easy, like she had trained for this moment her entire life. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. Then Tira spoke again. "We cannot wait. They will find another way. Prepare yourself." Nico sat up slowly, his hand on his sidearm. But Tira shook her head. "Weapons alone will not help. Watch and follow my lead." With that, she pressed another button on her device. A small panel in the floor slid open, revealing a narrow passageway beneath the inn. "This will take us outside," she said. "Move quickly, quietly." Nico followed, keeping his movements slow and careful. The passage was tight, barely wider than his shoulders, and smelled of damp stone. Outside, he could see the jagged landscape lit by the twin suns of Zifferon. Strange silhouettes moved in the distance, hunters, scavengers, or worse. He could not tell. Tira led him swiftly across the rocky ground. Her eyes scanned every shadow, every movement. She whispered instructions in low tones, and Nico followed each one without hesitation. He realized that this alien's rule-sharing space was more than tradition. It allowed her to be ready, alert, and connected to him in ways he did not fully understand. Suddenly, a group of creatures lunged from behind rocks. They were tall, humanoid, with glowing eyes and long claws. Nico froze, but Tira reacted instantly. She moved faster than he thought possible, spinning and striking. Each movement was precise. She used the creature's own momentum against them, throwing them back with perfect control. Nico could only watch, amazed. When one of the attackers came too close, he used a small stun pistol to disable it, following Tira's guidance. Together, they moved like a single team. After a tense few minutes, the creatures finally retreated, howling in frustration. Nico's chest heaved as he tried to catch his breath. Tira stood beside him, calm as ever, scanning the horizon. "You did well," she said quietly. "You followed instructions, stayed alert, and did not panic. That matters more than you think." Nico wiped sweat from his forehead. You're incredible. How did you do that so easily?" Tira's amber eyes met his. "It is my training, and it is my duty. I will protect you, but you must learn to trust me and understand the rules of my people. Only then can we survive on Zifferon." Nico nodded slowly. He had faced danger before, but nothing like this. He realized that Tira's strange customs were not just rules, they were survival. And as the wind howled again across the rocky cliffs, he knew that the next days on Zifferon would test them both, in ways neither could yet imagine. The morning on Zifferon was quiet, almost too quiet. Nico stood on the rocky plateau outside the inn, watching twin suns rise over the jagged cliffs. The sky was streaked with green and gold, and the wind carried a faint smell of metal and stone. He still felt the adrenaline from last night's attack, but he knew the danger was far from over. Tira stood beside him, her amber eyes scanning the horizon. She was calm, as if nothing could disturb her focus. Nico had learned quickly that she was always alert, always aware. He tried to copy her stance, but he felt clumsy and slow. "We need supplies," Tira said finally, breaking the silence. "And information. Zifferon is dangerous, and the creatures last night were not working alone. Someone is watching you." Nico nodded. "Where do we start?" Tira led him to a small market at the edge of the city. Merchants sold strange glowing crystals, alien weapons, and foods that looked like nothing Nico had ever seen. Some creatures watched them carefully, but none dared approach while Tira was nearby. As they moved through the market, Nico asked, "Tira, why do your people follow that rule about the bed chamber?" Tira glanced at him, her expression serious. "It is tradition. It is how we connect with those we protect. When we share space, our senses link. I can detect threats before they appear. It is not about comfort. It is about survival." Nico considered this. "So it's like, your instincts get stronger." Tira nodded. "Exactly. I can respond faster. I can anticipate danger. Without this connection, my abilities are limited." Nico had never thought about protection like that. Humans trained with weapons and armor, but nothing like Tira's method. He realized that trusting her fully was not just smart, it was necessary. They walked past a stall where a small, round creature tried to snatch Nico's bag. Before he could react, Tira moved. She grabbed the creature with one swift motion and returned it to the ground unharmed. Nico watched, amazed. "You are everywhere at once," he whispered. Tira shrugged slightly. "Practice. Awareness. Discipline. You will learn to, if you pay attention." As the day went on, Nico began to notice other things. Tira had a way of reading the people around them. She could tell if someone was lying, hiding something, or preparing to attack. She explained things quietly, teaching him without slowing their pace. By afternoon, they reached the edge of the city where a dangerous canyon cut through the land. Tira stopped. "We must cross here. But it is risky." The syndicate I warned you about may patrol this area. Nico swallowed his fear. I'll follow your lead. Together, they moved carefully along the cliff's edge. Rocks crumbled beneath their feet, and strange birds circled overhead. Nico tried to stay focused, but his heart raced. Tira never wavered. Her movements were precise, almost effortless, and he began to trust her instincts more than his own eyes. Halfway across, a figure stepped from behind a rock, tall, armored, and clearly hostile. Nico froze. Tira's hand moved almost before he realized it. She pushed him behind a large boulder and took a stance in the open. Her eyes glowed faintly, scanning the enemy. The figure lunged, and Tira reacted with perfect timing. She deflected a blade, sidestepped, and countered with a move that sent the attacker sprawling. Nico felt a surge of admiration. She was not just a protector, she was a force of nature. When the threat was gone, Nico breathed heavily. I don't know how you do that, he said, still trembling. Tira's expression softened slightly. It is my duty. And you did well too. You followed my instructions, stayed close, and did not panic. That matters more than you realize. Nico felt a strange warmth. He had feared this alien at first, her customs and her power. But now, he felt respect, and even a hint of friendship. He realized that trust was growing between them. They were no longer just protector and human, they were a team. As evening fell, they found a safe place to rest. Nico watched the suns dip behind the cliffs. Tira arranged the chamber, setting up the devices that would keep him safe. You will sleep here, she said, as always. I will be nearby. Rest now. Nico lay down, thinking about the day. He had faced danger, learned new skills, and seen Tira's abilities up close. He realized something important: surviving on Zifferon was impossible alone. But with Tira, he had a chance. Not just to survive, but to thrive. Outside, the wind howled across the cliffs, carrying distant cries. Inside, Nico felt a strange sense of safety. For the first time since arriving, he understood that sometimes rules that seemed strange could be the key to survival. And sometimes, the most unlikely bonds between human and alien could become the strongest. The next morning, Zifferon looked deceptively calm. The jagged cliffs glowed under the twin suns, and the wind carried a faint metallic scent. Nico adjusted his jacket, feeling the tension in his shoulders. He had learned to trust Tira's instincts, but something about today felt different. Tira moved ahead, her eyes scanning the rocky terrain. We must reach the council hall, she said. There, you may find answers about why the syndicate is hunting you. But the path is dangerous. We cannot be seen. Nico followed closely, keeping pace with her long strides. How do you know they're watching us? He asked. Tira didn't answer immediately. Her eyes flicked toward a cluster of rocks. They have scouts, she said finally. Subtle, fast, and deadly. They try to blend with the terrain. If we are careless, they will strike before we notice. As they approached a narrow canyon, Nico noticed movement in the shadows, small, humanoid figures darting between rocks. He tensed. There. I see them. Tira's hand went up. Quiet. Watch. The scouts paused as if sensing something. Tira's amber eyes glowed faintly. She whispered, they are close, but not yet aware of us. Follow my lead. She moved like water over stones, soft but precise. Nico tried to match her steps, his own movements clumsy in comparison. One misstep sent a loose rock tumbling down the canyon wall. The sound echoed, and the scouts froze. Tira didn't hesitate. She signaled for Nico to stay behind. With a swift, fluid motion, she grabbed a rock and threw it to a far corner, creating a distraction. The scouts turned instinctively, giving them a narrow opening. Nico followed her without thinking. The canyon walls loomed above them, but the opening led them into a hidden path, a small, narrow tunnel carved into the rock. It was dimly lit, but safe for the moment. "They do not know we are here," Tira whispered. "But it will not last. We must move quickly." Hours passed as they navigated twisting tunnels and rocky ridges. Tira taught Nico to observe shadows, listen to subtle sounds, and anticipate danger. He realized that her strange custom sharing the bed chamber was more than tradition. It gave her a connection, a rhythm, a way to sense threats that humans could not understand. By afternoon, they reached a plateau overlooking the city center. From this vantage point, Nico could see the council hall, a tall structure of metal and stone. But something was wrong. Guards moved oddly, whispering to each other, glancing around nervously. And a figure stood on the balcony, tall, armored, and unmistakably human. Tira's eyes narrowed. "They are waiting," she said. "The syndicate has infiltrated the council. They know you will come. This is a trap." Nico's stomach sank. He had expected danger, but not here, not so close to safety. "What do we do?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. Tira placed a hand on his shoulder. "We survive. You follow my instructions, and we will make it out. Trust me." They descended the ridge carefully, using shadows for cover. Every step was measured. When they reached the council hall, Tira signaled him to stay behind a large pillar. The human figure on the balcony raised a weapon, aiming directly at them. Before Nico could react, Tira moved like lightning. She sprinted across the open space, using a low, spinning maneuver to knock the weapon away. The figure stumbled, surprised, but quickly recovered, drawing another weapon. Nico felt his heart race. Tira's movements were flawless. She didn't just fight, she controlled the battlefield. He realized that her ability to protect him was not only about strength, it was about timing, strategy, and complete focus. The intruder fired, but Tira deflected the shot with a small, metallic shield. Then she signaled Nico. "Now. Move." Nico ran, following her lead, weaving through the pillars. He used the momentary distraction to disable another attacker with a stun device. Together, they cleared the immediate area. When the last guard fell, Tira approached the human figure on the balcony. "We know why you are here," she said. "You will not take him." The figure hesitated. There was recognition in their eyes, a mix of surprise and respect. Nico didn't understand fully, but he felt a rush of relief. For the first time, he realized that the syndicate had underestimated them, human and alien together. Tira turned to him. "This is only the beginning," she said. "The threats will grow, but so will your strength. You are learning quickly, Nico. That is why we survive." Nico nodded, feeling a strange mix of fear and excitement. The danger was far from over, but he had someone he could trust. And he was beginning to understand the value of her strange custom. The rule that had seemed awkward, even unnecessary at first, was now a lifeline. As they left the council hall, the twin suns hung low over the cliffs. Nico felt a new sense of purpose. He had survived Zifferon's first real test, but he knew bigger challenges awaited. With Tira by his side, he was ready. The air on Zifferon was thick with tension as Nico and Tira moved through the canyon. The last attack had left both of them wary, but it had also shown Nico something important. Tira's abilities were beyond anything he had imagined. Her speed, precision, and awareness made him realize he had to push himself if he wanted to survive. Tira glanced at him, her ember eyes calm yet sharp. "You are improving," she said. "But you must go further. Your instincts are slow compared to mine. You must learn to anticipate danger before it reaches you." Nico nodded, feeling both nervous and determined. "I'll try," he said. "Teach me." Tira led him to a wide plateau surrounded by rocky spires. "This will be your training ground," she said. "We will simulate ambushes. You will react as if the threat is real." Nico took a deep breath. He had fought before, but he had never trained with an alien warrior. Tira explained that she would act as both enemy and guide. He had to respond, improvise, and survive. The first exercise began. Tira moved silently, appearing suddenly from behind a rock. Nico's reaction was slow. She easily touched his shoulder, signaling a hit. "Too slow," she said. "Anticipate. Read the environment, not just me." They ran through the drills again and again. Tira used every possible distraction: shadows, loose rocks, echoes, even alien devices that simulated danger. Each time, Nico improved. His reactions became quicker, his eyes sharper, his mind more alert. After hours of training, Tira stopped and observed him. "Better," she said. "You are beginning to understand that survival is more than strength. It is focus, timing, and trust. Trust in yourself and in your team." Nico wiped sweat from his forehead. "I never thought I could keep up with you," he admitted. "You're amazing." Tira's expression softened slightly. "You will be amazing too, if you continue. Humans have a strange ability. You can adapt, improvise, and think in ways my people do not. That is why we make a strong team." Their training was interrupted by distant sounds, shouts, and the heavy thrum of engines. Nico's heart raced. "They're here," he said, recognizing the familiar threat of the syndicate. Tira's eyes glowed. "Yes. And they are testing us." The attackers moved into view, a squad of heavily armored mercenaries, weapons glinting in the sunlight. Tira did not hesitate. "Use what you've learned," she instructed. "I will guide you, but you must act." Nico's pulse raced as he crouched behind a boulder. He watched Tira move, analyzing the enemy's positions. Then he remembered her lessons: anticipate, improvise, act. He threw a small rock to create a distraction. One enemy turned, and Nico fired a stun shot with precision. Tira moved alongside him, deflecting a heavy blow from another attacker and using their momentum to incapacitate them. For the first time, Nico realized something incredible: he was no longer just following her. He was thinking ahead, reacting with skill, working as part of a seamless team. Every move was coordinated, almost instinctive. The fight was tense but brief. The syndicate's squad realized they were outmatched and retreated, leaving Nico and Tira standing on the plateau. Nico's chest heaved, adrenaline still coursing through his veins. Tira turned to him, her ember eyes glowing faintly. "You are ready for more than I first expected," she said. "You are learning quickly. That is why we survive. That is why you can trust me, and I can trust you." Nico smiled, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment he had not felt in years. "I couldn't have done it without you," he said honestly. "I'm glad you're here." Tira's expression softened slightly, almost imperceptibly. "And I am glad you allowed me to protect you fully. That is the first step. Respect, trust, and understanding make us stronger than either alone." As the suns began to dip toward the horizon, Nico and Tira made their way back to the inn. The day had been exhausting, but it had taught them both something vital: survival on Zifferon was not about individual skill, it was about partnership, adaptation, and trust. That night, as they prepared the chamber for rest, Nico felt a new sense of confidence. He understood that the strange customs he had questioned before were now the key to his safety. With Tira by his side, he could face dangers he had once thought impossible. Outside, the wind howled across the rocky cliffs, carrying distant echoes of creatures and enemies. Inside, the glow of the device filled the chamber. Nico lay down, feeling both nervous and excited for what tomorrow might bring. For the first time, he knew that he and Tira were more than protector and human. They were a team, and together, they could face anything Zifferon, or the galaxy, might throw at them. The night on Zifferon was darker than usual, the twin moons casting long, eerie shadows over the jagged cliffs. Nico and Tira crouched behind a rocky outcrop, overlooking the clearing where the syndicate had gathered. Nico's pulse raced, but he felt a strange calm. He had trained, he had learned, and he had Tira by his side. They have more forces than before, Tira said quietly, her ember eyes scanning every movement. This will be their strongest attempt. We cannot afford mistakes. Nico nodded, checking his equipment. We're ready. I trust you. Tira's expression softened slightly. And I trust you. Remember what you learned. Anticipate. React. Work together. That is the only way we survive. They waited in silence as the syndicate's mercenaries prepared their assault. Nico could see armored figures moving into position, weapons glinting under the moon's light. The air was tense, every shadow a potential threat. Suddenly, one of the syndicate's scouts spotted them. A loud alarm blared, echoing across the canyon. Nico's heart pounded. They saw us, he whispered. Tira didn't hesitate. She sprang into action, moving like a shadow over the rocky terrain. She disarmed the first attacker with a swift strike and used his momentum to throw him into a nearby boulder. Nico followed, firing stun shots to disable two others. They moved as a unit, instinct and training guiding them. Nico realized that he was no longer just a follower, he was a partner. Every decision, every move, was coordinated with Tira's guidance. The syndicate regrouped, advancing in greater numbers. Nico and Tira ducked behind a large rock as blaster fire cracked around them. Sparks flew, and the ground shook with each hit. Tira pressed a button on her device, sending a pulse that created a temporary shield around them. Nico could feel the vibration through his feet, and he knew it would hold for only a short time. Now! Tira shouted. They charged together, using the shield as cover. Nico aimed with precision, disabling two more attackers. Tira moved with lethal grace, taking down enemies with minimal effort. They were a force no one had anticipated, a human and an alien, combining skill, intelligence, and instinct. One of the syndicate leaders stepped forward, wielding a heavy energy weapon. Tira moved to intercept, but Nico acted on instinct. He hurled a small device at the leader's feet, emitting a blinding light. The leader stumbled, giving Tira the opening to strike. With a precise motion, she knocked the weapon from his hands and pinned him to the ground. Nico ran to help, and together they subdued the remaining attackers. The clearing was quiet now, except for the labored breathing of Nico and Tira. The syndicate had been defeated, and the human leader lay captured, a clear sign that their mission was over for now. Tira looked at Nico, her expression unreadable but softer than ever. You did well. Your instincts, your timing, you are stronger than I first believed. Nico shook his head, still catching his breath. No. I couldn't have done it without you. You guided me. You saved me. Tira nodded. And you followed. You trusted me, and you acted. That is why we survived. Together, we are stronger than any enemy. For the first time, Nico truly understood the importance of her customs. The strange rule about the bed chamber, the rituals of trust, it had all been about building a connection, a bond that allowed them to survive impossible odds. As the twin moons rose higher, casting silver light over the canyon, Nico and Tira made their way back to the inn. The wind howled, but it no longer felt threatening. The danger had passed, and they had proven that humans and aliens could work together, each learning from the other. That night, as Nico prepared to rest in the chamber, he looked at Tira. I understand now, he said softly. Your rules, they aren't strange. They're survival. They're trust. Tira's amber eyes met his. Yes. And you have earned my full protection. Not because of tradition alone, but because you have proven yourself. You are ready for the challenges ahead. Nico lay down, feeling both tired and proud. The lessons of Zifferon had been harsh, but they had made him stronger. He had faced danger, learned to trust, and discovered that strength came not just from skill, but from partnership. Outside, the wind swept across the cliffs, carrying the quiet sounds of distant creatures. Inside, the chamber glowed softly, a safe haven in a wild, dangerous world. Nico closed his eyes, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he would face them with Tira by his side. For the first time since landing on Zifferon, he felt truly ready not just to survive, but to thrive. Together, human and alien, they had become unstoppable. The morning sun rose over Zifferon, casting golden light across jagged cliffs and rocky valleys. Nico stretched, feeling the soreness in his muscles from the previous night's battle. He had survived, and more importantly, he had grown stronger. He looked over at Tira, who was already standing, scanning the horizon as always. "You're early," Nico said, smiling faintly. Tira's amber eyes flicked toward him. "I am always alert. The world does not wait, and neither do threats." Nico nodded. He had learned to respect her discipline and constant vigilance. Over the past days, he had grown not just as a fighter but as a thinker. Tira had taught him more than combat. She had taught him observation, patience, and trust. They prepared to leave the inn. Nico carried only essential supplies, while Tira checked their equipment, ensuring nothing could fail them during the journey ahead. The syndicate had been defeated, but he knew Zifferon was still unpredictable. As they walked toward the city's edge, locals watched from a distance. Nico noticed a few nods and gestures of acknowledgement. It was subtle, but he realized that humans' courage and teamwork with Tira had earned them respect. Even on this alien world, bravery was recognized. "Where to next?" Nico asked, keeping his tone casual, though he felt anticipation in his chest. Tira glanced at him. "The council must still hear your story. They need to understand that humans are not weak, that cooperation is stronger than fear. Your survival proves it." Nico felt a sense of pride. For so long, humans had been underestimated in the galaxy. Now, with Tira's help, he had shown not only his own strength but the strength of humanity. As they entered the council hall, the doors opened, revealing officials who had once been wary. They studied Nico and Tira carefully, noting the partnership and teamwork between the human and the alien warrior. Whispers passed through the chamber, but there was no hostility, only respect. Tira stepped forward, her posture perfect, commanding attention. This human survived Zifferon's dangers not alone, but with guidance, discipline, and trust. He represents a species capable of courage, intelligence, and cooperation. Nico added, "And I could not have done it without Tira. She saved my life more times than I can count. Together, we faced dangers that no one expected, and we survived because we worked as a team." A silence fell over the council chamber. Then one of the officials, a tall alien with silver skin, nodded slowly. "Humans are resourceful," the official said. "And your bond with Tira shows a level of cooperation rare in the galaxy. You have earned our respect." Nico felt a surge of relief. He had feared that humans would be dismissed, underestimated, or even exploited. Instead, he and Tira had turned perception into admiration. After the meeting, Tira led Nico back to the inn. "The rules of my people are strange to outsiders," she said quietly. "But now you understand them. Trust, respect, and connection, these are the keys. And you have proven that humans can grasp them." Nico smiled. "I understand now. What I thought was awkward or unnecessary, it was a lifeline. You kept me alive. You taught me how to survive, not just physically, but mentally. I'm grateful." Tira's amber eyes softened, a rare display of emotion. Gratitude is not required. Understanding and action matter more. You have both. That is why we succeeded. That night, as the sun set, Nico prepared to rest. The chamber was quiet and safe, the devices glowing softly, casting warm light across the walls. He lay down and watched Tira settle nearby, alert as always. For the first time, it felt natural. The strange rule about the bedchamber no longer seemed odd. It was a symbol of trust, protection, and mutual respect. Nico closed his eyes, thinking about the past days, the attacks, the training, the dangers, and the victories. He had learned more than survival, he had learned the value of partnership across species, the strength in trusting someone different from himself, and the courage to face the unknown. Outside, Zifferon's wind carried distant cries, but inside, Nico felt safe. With Tira at his side, he knew they could face anything the galaxy threw at them. He smiled softly, knowing that this was only the beginning. The next morning, they would set out for new challenges, but tonight was a night of quiet triumph. Humans had earned respect, and Nico had earned a friend and protector he could trust completely. As sleep finally took him, he realized something profound. Survival was not just about skill, weapons, or instinct, it was about connection. And in the dangerous, wild galaxy, a human and an alien, working together, could overcome any obstacle. With that thought, Nico drifted into sleep, confident in the bond he had formed and ready for the adventures that lay ahead.